the stand. Now he runs. He produces a magic trick. He pulls out another one. This is incredible. This is ridiculous. This is 15 out of 10 on the incredible meter. What a player. What an entertainer. Give him the medal. Give him the Dally-M medal.
Hello, footy fans, and welcome back to the Chip and Chase podcast, ready to rip and tear into everything that was in round 17 of the NRL Telstra Premiership season. It was a bit of a weird round, lots of good games and then, some not so good games mixed in there, but it's always entertaining at this point of the season. We're just loving our footy. So let's jump right into the first game of the round, which it was definitely the best game of the round and one of the best games of the season for me. This Panthers and Bulldogs game, the Panthers winning this one 8-6, and they are well and truly looking like they're back in the running for a premiership. They're not firmly entrenched in the top 8 now, but their draw early in the season does give them that 1 point buffer above those teams below them. So they're in a good little spot at the moment. And it's just going to be a very terrifying prospect of coming up against them in finals, especially when you consider they won this one against the team coming first. Outright first on the ladder were the Canterbury Bulldogs, and the Panthers got it done. It was a low-scoring game, obviously 8-6, but it just had the intensity of a semi-final, to be honest. Like, I've seen people out there saying that this game was better than both of the Origin games this year, and honestly, I can't disagree. It was such a good game, and it goes to show that these low-scoring affairs definitely have their place if you can just let the footy flow. There wasn't too many stoppages in this one. The refereeing was really good. The intensity, everything about it was just, as I said, it was semi-final. Hell, it may have even been bloody grand final feel to it. These two teams knew that this was... They probably penciled this one in from the start of the season, the Bulldogs, and then the Panthers with their losses early on, they probably penciled it in a little bit later to say that's our test. Round 17 against the Canterbury Bulldogs, that's where we want to be. And it's crazy to think that, for a while there, we're sitting here saying they probably can't make the 8, and now they're knocking off the ladder leaders in consecutive weeks. Who'd they beat last week? They beat the Warriors last week, who weren't ladder leaders but were firmly in the top 4, and then the Bulldogs this week. They are looking very, very scary, the Panthers. And yeah, I just love how they got this one done, back to their gritty roots. In terms of, the Bulldogs, do I take a huge amount out of this loss? Not necessarily. I know you can look at ladder prospects and where they are on the ladder and where the Panthers were on the ladder. For me, the Panthers aren't, when they want to be, we know where they can be. They're a top-tier side. They just haven't been for most of the season, but they're starting to put that together. Losing to them isn't a huge blight, but obviously it's one of those games that the Bulldogs really want to win to really, affirm themselves as premiership favourites and heavyweights in a way. So they'll be disappointed to lose this one in the end, but it's not one of those games where I look back at and say, far out, the Bulldogs were poor and they can't win a premiership. They matched the Panthers for most of this game. It was only 2 points difference against the 4-time premiership winners of the last 4 years. So I'm not taking much negative away from the Bulldogs. I'm just taking a big positive for the Panthers in winning this one. And I'm taking a big positive for the general audience viewing this one. As I said, just a really, really good game. Intensity at a season high, to be honest. I love the sort of chess battle between the halves, especially early on in this game. It was just kicking early in the sets by third tackle Burton and Cleary for the respective sides were just kicking it long and deep early in sets and just backing their defense and discipline. Like the sort of days are old, and I love that sort of thing. It was just, a chess match between the halves and just a really, really good game in general. Let's start over on the Bulldogs. Now, for me, the best player for them was 100% Connor Tracy. He had an absolute blinder for the club. Came up with 2 try savers on Blaze Talangi both times, actually. They were almost identical try savers, with Talangi breaking through the line in the, from about the 10-metre line and in for all money. And Connor Tracy just throws his body weight at Talangi and just brings him down short of the line. It should have been an effort that was rewarded with a win. And if you looked back at this game and go, oh, the Bulldogs came away 2-point victors, or, just narrow margin victors, you'd look back to that tackle from Connor Tracy. And then he did it a second time, and it was nearly a mirror image of the first time. Right on half-time, Talangi breaks through again, and Connor Tracy just launches at him and brings him down short of the line. He didn't just do that, though. He sort of had that half break in the middle of the field that he then offloaded to Reid Marnie, and Reid Marnie gave it to Jacob Preston. So he laid a huge hand in the Bulldogs' only try of the game. He came up with those two huge, well, they were huge, but they could have been, mammoth in the context of the season if the Bulldogs were to win that game with those try savers. And just beyond that, 23 runs, 174 metres, 2 line break assists, 5 tackle breaks. He was just unbelievable, Connor Tracy. You guys know, if you listen to this podcast, how big a fan I am of Connor Tracy. Since essentially his Sharks days, I've always wanted him to just lock up a position. I didn't mind where, and he's just getting rewarded for that now. Even with the signing of Lockie Galvin and people going, where do all these puzzle pieces fit in? I'm just glad that Connor Tracy has sort of it's almost like he's gone to another level these last couple of weeks, and he's really hammered home that I'm the fullback of this club, and I can be the fullback that can win you a premiership. Because plays like that, those are premiership winning plays. They obviously didn't win the game in this one, but the Bulldogs' loss cannot come down to Connor Tracy in the slightest. His efforts deserve to make him a winner in this one. Beyond Connor Tracy, of course, that man who scored the try, Jacob Preston, I thought he was terrific, as he always sort of is, Jacob Preston, even when he's not scoring tries, which, he's well and truly adept to breaking a game open and scoring a meat pie. But 13 runs, 132 metres, 2 tackle breaks, and of course 44 tackles with 2 missed. I thought he was really, really good out there. Reid Marnie, I thought, had his best game in quite a while. Obviously, all the rumours about him leaving the club and whatnot, I thought he was really good. A lot is being said about, when Lachlan Galvin came onto the field, that was the turning point for the Bulldogs and they lost the game from them. I think that's really harsh, not because, I don't think you can blame it on Lachlan Galvin coming onto the field. Sure, when he came onto the field, he had that, it wasn't even a missed tackle, a misread in defence, and Cleary made that 50-metre break and play, and then they didn't score off that set, but it gave them the field position, and then Bulldogs had to kick from deep out of their half in the next set because of, where the field position that the Panthers had and how they camped them in their end. And that led to, Burton trying to kick from deep in his half, and Cleary charging down that ball and scoring what ended up being the only try for the Panthers, but essentially the game-winning try as well. So you can go back and say, Lachlan Galvin's missed led to the field position, which led to the Burton kick, which led to the charge down. But you can do that all game, in my opinion. I don't think you can, it was a poor miss by Galvin, but they chased back. The Bulldogs defended the rest of that set. They got through an entire set themselves, and then Cleary charged down. For me, I'm not looking at negatives from Galvin there. I'm not blaming him for that. I'm not blaming Burton for, getting the kick charged down. I'm just putting that down to Nathan Cleary being a big game player. The fact he can come up with these plays no matter what he's doing, if it's a kick, a pass, a run, anything Cleary can do, he does it in the big games. And then a charge down is the first time I've really seen him do one of them. But it just goes to show the strings to his bow. He's the best player in the game. He has been for a long time. Any Dally M's or whatnot, that doesn't really matter to me. I think Nathan Cleary is the best player in the NRL. I think he's the best rugby league player in the world at the moment. And I'm not going to look back at negatives for that. But the Galvin sub on is an interesting one, because I've seen heaps of people, blowing up now saying Galvin was the difference maker. When you brought him on, it stopped the Bulldogs' momentum and the game changed. And it's like, they only conceded one try. It's not like he completely killed this game. And the one try was a charge down from Cleary. So it's not like he killed the Bulldogs. But at the same time, Reid Marnie was playing some really, really good footy. Then they took him off. And it's just a tough one for Serraldo, to be honest, because it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. You bring Galvin on, and then you go on to lose the game, no matter if it's his fault or not. People are going to start saying, we were winning that game till Galvin came onto the field. But if you don't bring Galvin on and this similar thing happens, Panthers score a try and they go ahead, you're going to be asking questions of the coach like, hey, we were down chasing points and you had this attacking weapon and Lockie Galvin on your bench and you didn't use him. So we predicted this, that it can't, the Galvin signing could be a disruption to their season. Now, I'm not willing to say that this is it. As I said, I'm not taking negatives away from the Bulldogs, to be honest. I still thought they were really, really good. They just came up against a desperate Panthers side, and we know how good the Panthers are. But in these next couple of games, I guess we'll get a really good indication of whether or not that'll happen because, there's a lot of pressure on when to inject Lachlan Galvin at the moment. I don't think Serrato necessarily has a game plan of X minute of the game. He comes in and he does this. I think it's sort of all vibes at the moment. And, it's just going to be really interesting with how they shape up with Lockie Galvin. Obviously, next week, round 18 is one of those sort of Origin bye weeks, so they'll be without. Actually, don't think Burton was named for New South Wales, so they might not even be without Matty Burton. I know Jacob Kiraz was named 18th man, so unless they wanted to do something weird there and move Bronson Sherry to wing, Matt Burton to centre to get in Lockie Galvin at 5'8", but I doubt they'll do anything like that. I think they'll just bring in either Inari Tawala or who's the young fella, Blake Wilson, onto that wing probably. In terms of any other standouts, because we went a bit over time on that sort of just situation with Lockie Galvin, I thought Stephen Crichton was really good. I really liked his running battle with Casey McLean. They were both getting each other's faces. I thought it was one of Casey McLean's better games of the season. I think he's been pretty underwhelming essentially all season. But in this game, I really liked how they went at it. But Stephen Crichton, if you watch him closely in that game, and he didn't have he wasn't the best defensive player in the world in this game. He had a couple misses and he was stood up a couple times by Casey McLean. Not too many, but enough. But you just see the way he moves. There's a lot of, with the way that Casey McLean was moving, and there's a lot of stop, start, jitter, jatter. I'm going to beat you with my speed. I'm going to get you to a complete stop and then burn you. All this sort of different tries, different ways of trying to beat Stephen Crichton, and just the way he can just read his opponent and stay with them and tackle them. Sometimes they may get a quick play of the ball because he doesn't get them, head on and onto their back, but he will get you. He's such a good defensive player. He also had 19 runs for 207 metres, Stephen Crichton, 3 tackle breaks in there. I thought he was really, really good. A really good captain's knock against his former club. Honestly, the entire backline I thought was good. Jacob Kiraz did his usual work of 26 runs for 217 metres. Marcelo Montoya, he did have, a couple sort of errors that, realistically, all of the backline had the errors, but Marcelo Montoya had a few notable ones that sort of let his team down a fair bit there. But he also still just keeps trying. 23 runs, 185 metres from Marcelo Montoya in there as well. Beyond that, Max King, I thought he was really good leading into Origin. 17 runs, 154 metres. And Viliami Kikau, they didn't get their looks this game, the Bulldogs. They didn't really get to break them down on that left-hand side, but they kept going at it with Viliami Kikau. Panthers defended it really well, but he looked really good out there as well. As for the Panthers, we've mentioned sort of Casey McLean there, obviously. Just thought it was one of his better games of the season. As I said, just going up against Stephen Crichton, it's one of those tests that you really want to, it's a really test of where you are at in your career. And I thought he looked really, really good. Didn't get he got the chockies in terms of the win. I wouldn't say he necessarily won the battle against Stephen Crichton. But yeah, he went toe-to-toe with him. I thought he was really, really good out there. And Dylan Edwards, just probably the best player on the field, in my opinion. You can look at Nathan Cleary doing his big game plays. You can look at Connor Tracy if the Bulldogs were to win this one. But Dylan Edwards, far out. 27 runs, 298 metres, 1 line break assist, 6 tackle breaks, 7 tackles made, 0 tackles missed. And, of course, was a goal kicker in this one, so got the conversions in there and got 4 points for the team as well. 4 out of the team's 8 points. So, yeah, Dylan Edwards is incredible, and these are the sort of contests that he really emerges and cements himself as one of the best fullbacks and one of the best players in our game at the moment. He can just go at it all game. If it's a close contest, he can be the difference maker because he is fitter than anyone in the comp, and he just keeps going and keeps going, making these meters, giving his team field position. And then, Panthers can play off the back of that. I thought he was unbelievable, Dylan Edwards. Nathan Cleary we already mentioned, but just incredible player. Genuinely just incredible player. He's the best player in our league. Just he can do it all. That line break, as I said, to give them that field position, and then of course to be the man to make that charge down and score the Panthers' only try, which wins them the game, is just it's what he can do, and he's doing it at not 100% health at the moment. Clearly hampered by the leg injury, hence why Dylan Edwards was goal kicking. But you couldn't really tell. He had 26 kicks of the football in this one, Nathan Cleary. 26 kicks for 837 meters. That is just absurd. He's, what is there what's there to say that hasn't already been said? He was just unbelievable. Beyond that, for the Penrith Panthers, I thought Blaise Lange was good, obviously making those 2 breaks, almost crossing for either of them. Isaac Tunga, I thought he was really good defensively. Obviously, he's had a lot of defensive errors in his game this season, and for the last couple, to be honest, I think he's been very poor. In this game, 23 tackles, only 3 misses. Thought he looked really good out there. He had that, when Matt Burton made that break on the left-hand side as well, he, got on his bike and chased back and made that try-saving tackle. Just, really good performance from Tungo. Not so much to comment on for the Penrith Panthers, standout performances. Mitch Kenny made 64 tackles, which is absurd. Isaiah Yeo 51 would already be absurd, but 64 tackles from Mitch Kenny. It's just those sort of efforts that you need from your leaders in the club, and the Panthers step up in the big games, and they got the Chockies in a great team effort in this one. So yeah, they're well and truly back, and they're not a team you want to be facing coming into finals and well and truly in finals. So just what a win from the Penrith Panthers. We went a little bit overtime on that game, but thankfully, and I don't mean this in a negative way, we don't have a huge amount to talk about this next game. The Manly Seagulls defeating the West Tigers 28-10. To put it bluntly, the first half of this game was the worst rugby league I had seen all year. Obviously, I've been pretty harsh on the Knights this season and the way they've gone about their footy, and they've been in a few stinkers. And not just them, there's been a lot of clubs that are in stinkers. But the first half of this game was terrible. It was such a hard watch. Nobody scored until the 39th minute. And, we just talked about how I don't mind if it's a low-scoring match. The Panthers-Bulldogs was the best game of the season for me, and it was 2 tries scored all game. But you have to have that intensity. This game was just marred by ill discipline. Neither team could finish a set. There were drop balls, there were penalties every set, and still nobody could crack lines. I guess you can look at positives from either side saying they defended well, but in the end, I'm just looking at it going, the ill discipline was it was terrible, and it made for an awful spectacle. Made a few jokes in group chat saying, games like this, especially that first half, make me question why I do the podcast and why I have to watch every minute of every game, because far out, it was it was a hard watch, this one. In the second half, it did open up, and, the team has played a little bit better, a fair bit better. That we actually got, 22 points scored in the second half from the Panthers, and we had 10 points from the Tigers in the second half, I should say. But it wasn't the best game of footy. And what am I taking away from these sides, heading into the rest of the season? I don't have a huge amount of positives. The Seagulls, they should have been just a lot more clinical. I know it was a little bit wet weather, it was slippery and whatnot, but they had to have been playing better in this one. I know their second half was good, but it's not something that they can build off. So if you can't really build off a performance like this, you'll take your 2 points. It gets you up the ladder and whatnot, but you just have to be heaps better and see where it takes you from there. I wouldn't be taking a huge amount out of this game. There's still positives in their team performances, which we'll go through now before we talk about the West Tigers. For me, Tom Trbojevic at fullback, at centre, I thought he looked really good. I liked the way he was sweeping, especially in that second half. He ended up finishing this game 18 runs, 136 metres, line break assist, try assist, 7 tackle breaks. Tommy Turbo did get absolutely hammered by Jarrell Skelton, which was a good hit from Skelton. But I love the way that he swept over to that left-hand side and he set up a try for, I think that was the Ruben Garrick try. it's just, yeah, that's the sort of football you want to get out of Turbo if you are playing him in the centres. Obviously, fullback's his best position. We all know that. But at this stage of the season, with his injuries and whatnot, and with how Lei has been playing, I'm more than happy to have him at centre if this is the way you use him. So I like the game plan that they did involving Tom Turbo, and that's always a good thing for the Manly Seagulls. Ruben Garrick back on the wing, does his usual business. In my opinion, he is a winger. I know he was the centre coming through the grades with the Dragons. Since he's been in the NRL, though, he's a winger. He's a fantastic winger. And he was great again there as well. 16 runs, 172 metres, 2 line breaks, 3 tackle breaks, and a try from Ruben Garrick. Lehigh did his work at fullback, 19 runs, 173 metres, line break assist, try assist. Tolo Kula was hard to stop. Cherry Evans came up with, his usual sort of 2 try assists. I love that he can just do them however he wants, realistically, DCE. The worrying thing I had with the Seagulls in this one was going into halftime, they interviewed Daly Cherry Evans and they said, are there any frustrations, with that first half? And he was like, no frustrations from me. He said, I'm proud of the boys' effort from that first half. The Tigers just kept showing up. And it's like, really? No frustrations and you're proud of the effort? It was a terrible first half. And yes, you can maybe point to their defense and say the Tigers did have, I believe, a majority of possession. It felt like a majority of possession in that first half, and the Seagulls kept turning them away. But to say that there's no frustrations when you had one of the worst halves I've seen of football, it was a bit worrying. Obviously, the Seagulls came out and they won this one pretty handedly, so there's probably not much going to be made of his comments, but I don't know, yeah, something about that just, it didn't feel right to me, and it just, comments like that have me a little bit worried about this Manly side. Obviously, I've been sort of worried about their premiership credentials for a few weeks now, but yeah, just an interesting sort of turn of events. Regardless from that, as I said, I thought Cherry Evans still had a good performance on the field, which is all you can sort of ask for. Their front rowers I thought were really good as well. Taukeaho, he was making multiple runs a set out there. Only played the 48. He's still not playing huge minutes, but I don't think you need him to. 15 runs, 146 metres. His late footwork is really underrated. He's not necessarily stepping players, left and right. I remember back in the day, there was, I think it might have been Fox Sports, they did those old, who's the hardest player to tackle, who's the best footwork, blah, blah, blah. CSO Taukeaho, he got a bait when they said who's got the best fullback in the league, and at the time people were saying Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Sean Johnson, these sort of players. Sio Taukeaho was mentioned for the best footwork in the game back in the day, and now he doesn't necessarily have the step back like he did back then where he could completely just beat a player Roger Tuivasa-Sheck style, but he's still got the footwork where he will essentially beat the defender, which lets him find his front every time. I thought he was really good out there, at least in attack. Defensively, he's had a few issues this season, missed 5 in this one. He did make 40, though, even though he was only on the field for 48 minutes. I thought he was really good, Taukeaho. Matty Lodge as well, by the way. 16 minutes he played, and in that 16 minutes, 10 runs for 83 metres. So really good output while he was on the field. He's really trying to earn a better contract for this side. Beyond that, Bullymore was good. Jake Trebojevic still making no meters, 37 meters in 71 minutes. But, still made his 45 tackles for 1 missed. Not really much to comment on off their bench either. So, yeah, just one of those sort of interesting games for the Manly Seagulls. For the Tigers, I'm a little bit worried about them now, especially they're now heading into this round 18 bye period without Heath Mason is getting suspended for a push on the ref in this one. Jerome Luai is playing Origin, so he's out. He was also out of this game, a late withdrawal. But they're without Mason, who's their second choice fullback. They're without Buller, who's their first choice fullback. They're without Luai, who's first choice 5/8 halfback, whatever you want to call him. And Apasai Coruscant also knocked himself out really bad in this one. So he stood down for 11 days with the HIA policy. So there goes your first choice fullback, your first choice, let's say 5/8 in Luai, your first choice hooker, and your second choice fullback because Mason's suspended, and your second choice hooker because Talon De Silva was just released after this game to sign with the Parramatta Eels. So I have no idea what their team is going to look like. I'm worried about it. I assume Adam Dewey will find himself in the halves, which is good because he was their shining light in this game. He was by far their best player. It wasn't close. He was incredible to me. I've always said that his best position is still 5'8", or just in the halves in general. 5'8" is probably my preferred one because he has that running game, but he can play halfback regardless. When he was moved into the halves in this one, because I think they started with like Appy in the halves and Talon De Silva played at 9. I think Talon De Silva might have played. No, he didn't play the full thing. But yeah, it says here that Appy ended up playing 5'8", Latu halfback. But they ended up switching that in that second half, and Dewey ended up in the halves, and he was everything. He played a hand in both of their tries. He was everywhere defensively. He was the entire spark to their side. 13 runs, 130 metres, one line break assist, 1 try assist, 6 tackle breaks, and genuinely could have done a heap more. His kicking game was really good too. He did kick like 1 dead, but it was a kick that was from so far in his half. He belted it all the way into theirs, and it went down, and it just goes to show the boot he has on him. There's only some sort of shining light next week if he can play a similar way and if they can really just galvanise off the back of it. But they do have this the Roosters coming off a bye, so it's going to be a really hard ask. But yeah, I cannot fault Adam Dewey's performance in this game. Terrell May, obviously, every week he does his thing. 68 minutes, 15 runs, 121 metres, 50 tackles, 0 miss. Just an absurd player. And Fanua Pole, I thought was really good still, doing his work, 18 runs, 135 metres. But that's sort of all there was to really comment on in this game. They're just, it was a really poor performance from the Tigers, and it's only going to get tougher. So I'm a bit worried about what's coming ahead for them. To me, they're still so much better than the Tigers of the last 3 years. But yeah, they need to be even better if they want to avoid another wooden spoon. So it is a disappointing game from them, and hopefully they can bounce back next week against the Roosters. Over to the next game, the Knights and the Raiders. The Raiders winning this one 22-18. I really liked this game as well. I thought this was one of the better games of the round. I've been very critical of the Knights essentially all season. I say it from a place of love because I'm essentially a Novocastrian these days, and I love going to Knights games. I love seeing them win. I've written essays and papers and stories about the Newcastle Knights and how the sun's shining brighter when they're winning games. I like them, but they've been playing a terrible brand of footy essentially all season. This was the difference. I thought, they still didn't get the chockies, but they came up against the Raiders, who are, in my opinion, now the best team in the comp. I still think the Storm are the premiership favourites for me. But the thing I like about the Raiders is not just the way that they're playing this season. They're the team I give the most chance to beating the Melbourne Storm in finals. Just the way that they play their footy, the Raiders. I think if they match up against the Storm in finals, they can win that. And if they can get that win before the Storm, before the grand final, I really like their chances. So for me, they're probably equal footing with the Storm as heavyweight favourites for me now. They're the best team in the comp. And the Knights were good. They took it to them. Obviously, that first half was tough. They didn't score any points, and the Raiders scored 3 of their 4 tries in that first half through Simi Sasungi, Kale Weeks, and Ethan Strange. Then that second half, and even just in that first half, even when they were down, their shape looked infinitely better with Brayley at 9, Hastings leading them around the park. I know he technically had the 5/8 on his jersey, but he was playing as a halfback. And even Phoenix Crossland at 13, I think, is a bit of icing on the cake. He's looking really good and really adding another dimension to their attack. I really like their attacking shape. It's better than they've sort of had all season. Kalen Ponga got to inject himself wherever he wanted, and he looked really dangerous out there before coming off the field with a foot injury, which has now ruled him out of Origin 3. I'm sure you guys would know that by the time you're listening to this podcast. But yeah, it wasn't a bad performance from the Knights in that second half when they're down 18-0 or 16-0 going into half-time. They come out and they score on the 49th, the 64th, the 74th. They have a really close game. It came down right to they were attacking right to the end of the game and challenging the football until the last play of the game to try and win this game. I'm taking a lot out of it. I know it's another loss for the Knights, and I've actually, loaded up on them to win the wooden spoon now that Kalen Ponga and Fletcher Sharper Well, Ponga's out not for the season, but for an extended period, and Fletcher Sharp essentially it's pretty much confirmed he will not play again this season with his injury, which sucks because he was their best player of the year this year. But I've loaded up on them for the wooden spoon, but performances like this make me question that, because if they can play more like this, I know they went with Ponga and Sharp, which is going to be really tough to do, but their shape in general was just heaps better. I take a fair bit away from this for the Knights. It's just going to be really difficult to see what they can do now, obviously, with the injuries they have. I'd assume this means Hastings stays in the side for the rest of the season unless they do a weird swap and bring Gamble back or whatnot, but I don't think he can. Like, the Knights have played so much better football with Jackson Hastings in the side, so I hope he stays in there. I don't know what they do with fullback, if it's Fletcher Hunt or if it's Connor Vitano finally gets his debut, or if Dane Gagai goes back there like he did in this game. I'm not entirely sure, but it's going to be interesting to see what the Knights do. I just hope if they can play this style of footy, they'll still get a few wins and they will avoid the wooden spoon because, just a good game from them. I know they didn't win. They came up against the best team in the comp and they really took it to them. So really good game from the Knights. I hope Knights fans can be quite happy with it. As for the Raiders, again, I'm not being too negative on them either. They're a side that they're winning games no matter what. Yes, it got a bit close against a team that hasn't been very good this season, but it was also in Newcastle, which is always another dimension to the Knights and their intensity. And it's just like a 14th player on the field, the Newcastle Knights crowd. And they were in control for most of the game. I know the Knights were really good, but the Raiders' defense was very, very solid. They obviously had that first half, a quite good buffer in that first half, and maybe they put the cue in the rack in that second half. But they were just a solid team that got another job done, and they're going to keep getting those wins if they can win ugly. Not that this was ugly. I thought the Raiders, as I said, were pretty darn good in this one. But if they can win these games when the other team's playing at the best of their ability and the Raiders can still do it without even sort of breaking too much of a sweat, they're going to be at the pointy end. As I said, they're now my tip for their premiership favourites. Them and the Melbourne Storm are on equal footing now. The Raiders, I'm loving watching them play. They're just, a really good footy side. In terms of standout players, I want to start with KO Weeks. So he was just heaps more involved in this game, and just he was so threatening. He was always sniffing around the ruck and, made a lot of big plays off the back of it. He ended up with 20 runs for 293 metres. He had 3 line breaks, 8 tackle breaks, and a try. KO Weeks. He's absolutely lightning quick. It's just, when he's playing like this, when he's lurking around the ruck and just the Raiders forward pack, it helped that in this game they freed the offload a bit more than they have typically this season. But that's the way that they should play. And if you get KO Weeks performances like this, doesn't have to be every week, but every second week, he can 100% win you games. Like his game, essentially, you could argue, was the difference in the scores in this one. So if he's playing like this in finals, they can win a premiership. He's the only question mark I've had with the side this season, whether or not they can do it with KO Weeks at fullback. And it's not because he's had a bad season, but it's just because he has 2 or 3 really good games and then 1 or 2 really, really quiet games. And when it comes to the finals, you can't afford to have those quiet games. But he was unbelievable in this one, KO Weeks. And I think games like this show he can very much be he can be the fullback in a team that can win a premiership. So just a unbelievable game from KO Weeks. This is how I want the Raiders and him to play moving forward. Beyond that, Josh Papali'i, again, just far out. He's so physical, so energetic. The fact that he's like 33 or whatever, and he's playing like this style of footy, he's so good. I'd give him another 3 years. I know it's essentially been confirmed that he will depart the club at the end of the season and head over to the Super League, which sucks because, I'd love to see him just retire at the Raiders. But Raiders have a lot of great juniors coming through. I love the fact that he's not going to go to another club and ever have to verse his Raiders again. He's just going to go over and get a good pay packet over in the Super League and tear it up over there. But the footy he's playing at the moment, he could genuinely just Yeah, he could stay for another few years. He's playing such a good brand of footy, and hence why he's just come out of rep retirement to strap on the boots for Queensland again, and well deserved. He's so good. The other thing about his departure is it just adds another layer of motivation for the Raiders to send him out a winner this year. So, yes, another thing. If the Raiders weren't hungry enough to win the premiership this year, Josh Papali'i as a farewell, giving him a ring to one of the greatest Canberra Raiders of all time. It's storybook stuff. So, yeah, very scary for any club moving forward going up against that. Joseph Tarpany, of course, you just have to mention these two every single week. His intensity early, he's just incredible. He was taking multiple runs a set, all of them with venom. He was offloading at will. He was fantastic out there. Tarpany, 15 runs, 145 metres, 3 offloads in this one. I didn't read Papali'i stats. They're not amazing, but again, you got to watch the game to realise what he was bringing. 10 runs, 106 metres from Papali'i, 31 tackles. But yeah, Tarpany, his front row forward partner, was heaps better in this one. Also got a few more minutes, 53 minutes. I sort of want him around that 55-minute mark, maybe even up to 60, but they don't need him playing huge minutes because of how good their bench has been, which I've said all season. Their second rowers, Simi Sasungi scoring a try. He's genuinely turning into a strike weapon for this footy side. Every week he's coming up with huge plays. He scored their first, and then he came up with the hit and spin flick pass that put he flicked it to Starling, and Starling put the left winger Jed Stewart over for Jed Stewart. Yeah, put Jed Stewart over for another try. He's just, as I said, he's turning into a strike weapon for the side. 16 runs, 164 metres, played the full 80, 2 tackle breaks, 2 offloads, 29 tackles, 2 missed, and the try just, the fact that he can come in, I didn't really think he could come in and have this sort of impact as an 80-minute second rower. Like, it's cool having that off the bench and bring him on for strike, but to do it in an 80-minute performance was unbelievable. His second row partner, Zach Hosking, I thought was brilliant as well. 11 runs, 97 metres, 2 line break assists, 3 tackle breaks. Just really, really good out there. 44 tackles, 4 missed. The thing with Zach Hosking is it doesn't necessarily show up in the stats. You just need to watch the game to see the little 1%ers that he's always doing. Like there's a player, I can't remember exactly the time period or who it was, but the Knights, they sort of spread out of their own end, or it's off a kick or whatnot, and they get some space and they're going upfield. And the only thing that stops it is Zach Hosking diving out, making a one-on-one tackle around the bootlaces on, I can't even remember the player, might have been Gagai or whatnot, or Bradman Best, I can't remember, but he makes that tackle. If he doesn't make that, the Knights essentially go the length of the field and score that try. And, in the context of this game, only 18 to 22 scoreline probably wins them the game. But those are the 1%ers that Zach Hosking always does. One of my favourite players in the NRL. I love his tackle technique is second to none for me. Just chops him down. I know it's not the best in how you're taught these days. You want to actually wrestle. You want to get them on their back. But to me, just the fact that he's not missing them, he's cutting you down one-on-one. If you can rely on someone to do a one-on-one tackle 100 times, like 99 out of 100 times, you don't need to. It just gives you more space to hold your width and mark your players on the outside because Zach is not going to miss that tackle. So I thought he was great. Corey Horsburgh in his 100th as well was fantastic. So essentially the entire forward pack, were incredible. I didn't even mention Tommy Starling, who was really, really good out there. As I said, made that try assist to Jed Stewart. Corey Horsburgh, 20 runs, 193 metres in this one. 1 offload and 38 tackles, 0 miss. Just great stuff. And their bench was really good as well. So really good win from the Raiders. I can't remember if I talked about No, I didn't. The Knights standout players while we're here. Callum Ponga, as I said, just inserted himself heaps better into this one. Stats aren't amazing. 15 runs, 131 metres, 2 line break assists, 1 try assist, 2 tackle breaks. But yeah, just inserted himself heaps better. Dane Gagai, 20 runs, 170 metres. Bradman Best, 22 runs, 216 metres, 2 line break assists, 1 try assist. Looking incredible. James Schiller was unbelievable in this one. Look, he still has a lot of errors in this game. I know that. He still had them in this game in particular. But fuck me, Dad. He tries hard like every single week, every week, he's trying so damn hard. He was everywhere against his former club. 18 runs from Schiller, 257 metres, 4 line breaks, 6 tackle breaks, 2 tries. Yeah, thought he was incredible, James Schiller. So shout out to him. Hastings, and, we mentioned their shape, so that ties in Hastings, Cogger, Jaden Bradley, who I thought was excellent as well and made 50-odd tackles. And as I said, Phoenix Crossland at lock, I thought he was really good as well. Played the full 80, 55 tackles from Phoenix Crossland as well. And as I said, opened up their attack. I think in this one, you just got to look at the forward packs being the difference. Not that the Knights forward pack was bad, but it's just really hard to match up against that Raiders forward pack. They found ways to do it. They found a way to spread early and nullify that to a degree. Didn't end up getting them the chockies. And as I said, their forward pack wasn't bad. Saifiti was solid, 13 runs, 119 metres. Frizzell does his usual business. Lucas and Pierce Paul were really good. But yeah, it's just really hard to match up against the Canberra Raiders. And, off the bench, Matty Croker, Jermaine McEwen getting his first try was really good. But Brady Jonas, Tom Can, no knock on any of those players. They're very much bench players, but they don't have that strike off the bench that they sort of need to match up against the Raiders. But yeah, I'm not taking much negative away from the Knights in this one. As I said, I thought they were really, really good. The next game, the Broncos and the Warriors. Broncos winning this one 26-12. I'll start on the Warriors. Yeah, disappointing. Yeah. I have not necessarily my excuses for the Panthers game last week, but there were reasonings, and it was a game that I could live with the loss. This one is a bit harder to live with. In fairness, the Broncos were really good. The Warriors still had some key injuries in this one. Chance Nickel-Klukstad went down, and the big one is Luke Metcalf went down with what is believed to be an ACL. The scans haven't happened yet, to my knowledge, but it looks like he's going to be rubbed out with an ACL injury, which is fucking just terrible stuff for Lukey Metcalf and this Warriors side, but especially Lukey Met. He's gone through heaps of injuries already. He's putting together the season of his life. He'd be right up there for the Dally M leader. He worked so hard for it. I feel for him so much. He's worked so hard to be in this position, and to do an ACL would just be killer. So hopefully the scans come back and it's not that bad, but unfortunately, hands-on testing with these injuries usually is pretty accurate. So yeah, that'll be killer. So yeah, losing those sort of players, yeah, very hard to sort of cover that. Tamaro Martin came onto the field to cover what's his face? Charles Nickel-Klukstad originally at fullback, which he's done in the past, ironically, for the Broncos. And then, of course, when Lukey Met went off, he switched into the halves and Roger Tuivasa-Sheck went back to fullback. Yeah, just stuff like that sucks, but it's not really an excuse. Even before those injuries occurred, we were losing this game pretty handedly. The Broncos was essentially all over us. We weren't getting much from anything like the Roger Tuivasa-Sheck try. I can't even remember. I think it was off good shape, but I think it might have come off like a kick deflection earlier in the set. The Leka Halasima try was off a kick where the Broncos just didn't contest. It was a really weird one. So, our attack wasn't fantastic. In fairness, the Broncos defended well. I'll give them that. But our attacking shape wasn't fantastic. And then when we lost those players, it was just trying to play through heart, and we just didn't have it in us. So I was pretty disappointed in this loss, even with the injuries. I'm not using that as an excuse because we were the worst side even before the injuries happened. So, yeah, tough, really tough game to lose that one for the Warriors. I've been very, skeptical of their premiership chances this season anyway, even as a diehard Warriors supporter. I just thought I wasn't seeing enough in a lot of our games that we were scraping through earlier in the year and getting wins, but they were very close wins. And it's put us in a great position on the ladder. And we have had performances which I thought, okay, maybe we're the real deal. For instance, the Sharks performance a few weeks ago. But I've never been completely sold on us. And I'm starting to see a few cracks in it. And now these injuries piling up. Charles Nickel-Klukstad, Luke Metcalf, Mitch Barnett. Losing Barnett and potentially Metcalf for the season is just horrific. It's killer. So, Dallin Watanze-Lesniak, another one that's out for a fair few more weeks. So, yeah, no excuses for the performance, no excuses for the loss. But it's going to be really interesting to see how we attempt to bounce back from that and whether or not we can over the next couple of weeks. They've got the bye heading into round 18 with a lot of players on that bye. We've got that one, comes at maybe a good time for us. I know you never want to go in off a loss, but I think with the injuries and whatnot, it's a chance to galvanise the group and just get around each other, and hopefully we can come back beyond that. For the Broncos, though, they were great. They were really, really good in this game. The bookies had them marked as favourites, which I thought was a bit absurd considering where these teams were placed on the ladder. But the Broncos showed a lot of fight last week to come back against the Sharkies. And this one, it wasn't a lot of fight to come back because they were never behind against the Warriors. But they got ahead and they just played a really good brand of footy and just stayed ahead. It wasn't hugely exciting. There were still 4 good tries scored in there. But they got it done. They got it done pretty handedly, to be honest. They looked really solid out there. They never, ever looked like they were going to lose this game. Even when the Warriors started to gain momentum, the Broncos just stuck to their structures and they fought it back, and they would come up with a player would come up with a big play to just swing momentum back in their favour. So I thought they were really good. The big thing about it too, I thought they were good without needing Payne Haas or Pat Carrigan to absolutely explode. Payne Haas in this one, 97 metres. I cannot recall the last time Payne Haas ran for less than 100 metres. The Warriors did contain him very well, which was a good part of their game plan, which, fair play to that. But then Xavier Willison off the bench, he came on and in 30 minutes, he absolutely exploded. 15 runs, 168 metres, 1 tackle break from Xavier Willison. So, that's a big part about the Broncos, and I like the rotations of that. Not that Haas was poor, not at all, but the Warriors contained him. They kept him quiet, so the Broncos go, okay, if you're going to put a lot of effort and emphasis on Payne, we'll hurt you with our other strike weapons and our rotations and bringing Xavier on, who's got the hot hand and whatnot. It was just a really, really good all-round performance from the Broncos. There's not really much more to sort of say about it. In terms of their standout players, Reece is still playing, obviously hampered out there. He still came up with a line break assist and try assist in 126 metres. He's been named on the extended bench for the Queensland Maroons for Game 3, I believe, obviously with Callum Ponga now out. But yeah, I think if he was 100% healthy in this one, he probably does end up in that Queensland side. But for someone who's quite easily, obviously, visibly, not at 100%, I thought he was really good. Josiah Karapani on the wing, I tell you what, he has been a find. Obviously, a big reason that they've let Selwyn Cobbo walk is just the fact that Josiah's come in. He's been incredible, 150 metres, 2 line breaks, 2 tackle breaks, and another try for him. He scored 5 tries in his last 3 games now. He's looking really good. Tony Staggs was good once again. Still want him to have a lot more touches, but Broncos got the win, so he can't be too critical. 7 runs, 53 metres from Katoni. But for me, it was just his defence was a lot better than it has been. Gambit Shibasaki, 2 tries again, 18 runs, 152 metres, 3 line breaks, 10 tackle breaks, 12 tackles, 2 missed. He's been one of the Broncos' best players all season. Obviously, Payne Haas is their best. I'd say Pat Carrigan would be right up there at the end of the year. But Shibasaki, I think he will be right up there with their players of the year. He's been incredible. One of those calls that Madge made at the early parts of the season saying, yep, Shibasaki is going to be our centre over talented player like Dean Mariner. And it's paid dividends. He has been incredible, and he's just earned himself a Origin debut for Queensland, and yeah, shout out to him. I think it's well deserved, to be honest. I think he's been incredible. So massive congratulations to Shibasaki, and honestly, really, really good in this game. Mam and Reynolds had their moments. Corey Jensen, the forward pack, had theirs. Paddy Carrigan still did his bit. 16 runs, 165 metres, 34 tackles. But yeah, there's not too much that I can comment on. Player standout wise was just a really good team performance, and they were just always in control of what has typically been a really good Warriors side this season. For the Warriors, yeah, as I said, obviously I've spoken about them extensively now. Disappointing loss even without the injuries. Yeah, I don't know really what they do moving forward. I assume Tane Tuapiki will come in for a chance at fullback, and that's the good thing about the club, I guess. We have a lot of depth. are we going to be able to change, are we going to be able to replicate Chance's numbers and what he does and where he is in positioning? Maybe not, but we'll have someone like Tane, or even if we move Roger back there, who can do a very, very admirable job at it, and we can definitely get wins with them in the team. And with Lukey Met, are we going to be able to emulate what he's been doing for us? Probably not. He's such a unique player and he's been playing incredible footy. But our New South Wales Cup team is 11 and we've won 11 games in a row at the moment, led by Tanner Boyd and, of course, Tomato Martin, who's been playing a bit of first grade for a while now, coming off the bench. But we know how good he was last year and how good he's been for the Warriors just since his arrival at the club. Whether we move him into halfback or we bring Tanner Boyd into the halfback role, I'm not sure. But we have some really, really handy replacements there. It'll be a different brand of footy from the Warriors, but it'll be an interesting brand. So I'm interested to sort of see how they go there. In terms of standouts for them, James Fisher-Harris, I thought he was really good. 14 runs, 125 metres, and one of those big reasons that we were able to stop Payne Haas. Jacob Laban, stats-wise, don't look incredible, but he's just looking more and more dangerous every time he has the footy. Aaron Clark, he did his usual thing as well. 120 metres and 35 tackles from Aaron Clark. And Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, I'll give him his shout-out. Of course, scored a try on the wing and then filled in at fullback. 18 runs, 173 metres, one line break, one try. But yeah, interesting. Going to be interesting where the Warriors go from here. Let's move on to the next game. The Dragons and the Eels. This one was an interesting one. Dragons winning 34-20. Now, there's a little bit to talk about for the Dragons. Their first half, incredible. They were winning this one. They scored 5 tries in the first half. And then they let in 3 tries to the Eels in the second half and only scored 1 themselves. I'm not going to take anything negative about them. I'm taking nothing negative away from the Dragons in this one. I thought with everything that's been said in the media about them and Kyle Flanagan, Shane Flanagan, just the Dragons in general, Lachlan Ilias in reserve grade, everything that's been said, there's been a lot of scrutiny, a lot of media attention. They need to come out and get a win against an Eels side who's near the bottom of the ladder, but have been putting together better performances across the season. They did that. And you can look at that second half and go, the Eels put on a heap of points. The Dragons were poor. The Dragons were decimated with injuries in this one. So off the top of my head, they lost Tui Pilotu 4 minutes before the game started. They had to call Nathan Lawson in 4 minutes before the game started and say, you're in. No warm-up or anything. You're playing. And Nathan Lawson scored 2 tries, so shout out to him scoring 2 tries on 4 minutes' notice, one of them being in the first minute, so he had 5 minutes to score a try. So they lost Tui Pilotu before the game. That's already stuffing you around. I don't think they lost Sua, but he had an ankle injury in this one. I can't remember if he actually came off the field, Sua. They lost Luciano Leilua to a quad. They lost Hamish Stewart to a head knock, and he's now out of the next game as well. Actually, he might not be because Dragons, I think, have the bye. I can't remember. There's 4 players. They lost Viliami Fafita to some sort of a knee issue. I think he ended up coming back, but there's another one, and there was another player as well who they lost that I cannot recall, but they lost about 6 players. Now, some of them had to stay on because they were injured. Lawson even played like the final 15 minutes with a limp arm by his side because they had nobody left on the interchange to put players back on. Toby Couchman was the other one. He did his shoulder. So I'm taking nothing away from them. They had no bench for a long period of that second half. And they didn't score many points. They scored 1 try, and it was literally off a Zach Lomax sort of offload to no one, ended up in the hands of Holmes, who scooted the length of the field to score. But they just had to grit their teeth with all the injuries that they had, playing longer minutes, fatigue setting in, a lot of them playing busted. As I said, Jaden Sua ended up playing 80 even with his ankle injury. Nathan Lawson played with a limp arm by his side. They just had to grit their teeth and just survive, and they did it. So I'm not taking anything away from it. I think it's a fantastic win. They needed this in the context of their season and making the 8. They needed this in the context of all the media attention, the scrutiny, and they needed this to show their character. to show that they can do this and they can grit their teeth and be this side. We saw in that first half that they can score points. That was unbelievable. But to, grit their teeth and just survive an Eels side with the wind at their sails, a lot of positives from the Dragons in this one, and I'm really, really happy that they got this win. I'm also really happy for Kyle Flanagan, who had a very, very good game in this one. With all the scrutiny that he copped, it was really good that he came out and had this game. So his stats for the game: 7 runs, 58 metres, 1 line break, 1 try, 3 tackle breaks, and 15 tackles. He was just really solid. The way the way he scored his try, the shape he played with, like he was going to play out the back, was just, I would have fallen for it. Even watching the replay, I would have fallen for it. And then cut through. Just a big performance from him. With all the pressure around them, if you're going to criticise Kyle Flanagan and Shane Flanagan and whatnot, the fact that he had all this pressure, and if you're saying he's not a good player, he shouldn't be in the side, pressure should be the thing that kills him. Like games like this, where he's got all that scrutiny and he's got all that pressure, and if he's not a good player, that should be the thing that kills him. But he comes out with that pressure and says, fuck you guys, I am a bloody good player and I'm going to have this performance. So just, massive shout out to Kyle Flanagan. And I like what the Dragons are standing for. I like what they're doing for all the stuff about, it was the content creator who lost his account and whatnot, and maybe the way that was handled, not necessarily from the club, but from everything that ended up losing his social media account. But maybe that wasn't handled great, but that's not the club's fault. I like the club has come out and had a stand about that. I don't particularly like that content creator's style of footy, style of content creation. Like they mask bullying, in my opinion, behind, or you can criticize players. For me, it's not criticism in the slightest. It has gone beyond that. And I like that the Dragons are taking a stand. I like that the club's got Flano's back, whether it's Kyle or Shane. They're behind their players and their coach, and it's just looking like a galvanised unit, and I really like that. So just a massive, massive shout out to the Dragons. In terms of their standout players beyond that, Valentine Holmes was incredible. 2 tries, 1 try assist, 1 line break assist, 221 metres, 7 tackle breaks. He was unbelievable. Gutho was just, doing his usual leadership stuff, and he had that. There was a really good part where early into the contest, I think it's an Emre Gula play the ball, Jack DeBellin plays the ball. A quick play the ball. Far out. Damien Cook scoots out. He makes that break. He links up with Gutho. So there's 2 of their big recruits. And Gutho, he steps, beats a few players, passes to Valentine, another big recruit, and then out to Nathan Lawson, not a big recruit, but another recruit to the club, and they score off that. So just all these players that they brought in, they're the ones vitalising plays like that, and I thought that was just really, really good to see. Liking King Tonga, and I've already mentioned Flanagan, but liking King Tonga, he was really, really good as well. Moses Sully was good. I thought he was really hard to handle in that first half. 15 runs, 157 metres, 1 line break, assist, 1 try assist. Good performances all around. When you look at their stats and whatnot of the forward pack, you're not seeing anything incredible, but again, you have to take into the context of all these injuries. Jack DeBellin, he had a fair few errors. I thought it was an uncharacteristic night for JDB against the club that he's obviously heading off to next year. But 13 runs, 111 metres, 33 tackles from him as well. Emre Gula didn't make a huge amount of metres, but he had 50 tackles. David Clemmer, 63 minutes he played, 117 metres and 43 tackles. I'd be very proud of this one. I don't think there's any negatives to take away from this performance for me from the Dragons. And just a really good game in the context of this season. So shout out them. For the Eels, I'm not going to say disappointing game for them either, because, they're not a world beater of a footy side, but that first half was pretty bad. And, the scoreline sort of masks that, because, if you didn't catch this game, you look at the score, you go, it's probably where I expected these two teams to be. But, they only made their run when the Dragons had all those injuries. So I thought that was a very disappointing first half. Zach Lomax, who I ended up captaining in Supercoach, so I watched very closely. I expected a huge game from him, and he still had one, but a lot of it came in that second half. Again, in that first half, I thought he was quite quite quiet, and the Dragons really limited his involvement. He wasn't contesting kicks like he used to. Second half, he came out and he did all that. He still finished this game with 21 runs, 197 metres, 5 tackle breaks, 5 offloads and a try. But yeah, also threw that offload to Valentine Holmes, who ran the length and scored the game sealing, not the match winning, but the game sealing try. Sean Russell, I thought, was really good. Josh Adokar, he's getting through more and more work each week. 15 runs, 173 metres, another try from Adokar. I love their winger dynamic in Lomax and Adokar these days. The speed of Adokar with the work ethic of Lomax is one thing, but the fact that Adokar's now pushing his game to another level and doing this as well is just, incredible. And in general, honestly, the refereeing, I want to give that a shout out while we're here. I thought the refereeing was really, really good in this one. They let it flow out. They just let it be its thing. And, when certain things were happening and there's a lot going on with injuries and this and that, I can't recall who the play-by-play referee was, but shout out to them. I'm going to search it up because we talk a lot about the players. We talk a lot about it when referees are poor. But they deserve to be not named and shamed, but named and, given credit. There we go. Match officials. Liam Kennedy was the main on-field referee. And I thought, he had a really good refereeing performance. So, shout out them. Shout out Liam Kennedy. And just in general, there's a touch judge call in this one where not Lomax, Adokar puts his foot on the line in real time, and they called that in real time. And people are blowing up, and it's fucking pissing me off. Blowing up how could he have seen it? And you ruined an opportunity. A, he was out. B, even if the ref couldn't fully see it, they're paid to make those calls. Aren't we sick of letting it go all the way to the bunker just to make the call? Why are we paying the referees to do that then? The touchy saw enough to make that call. It was the correct call. And then I'm seeing people say, but they should have let it play out and then score a try and let the bunker have a look at it. And it's like, are you dumb? What sort of, it makes me so angry. We complain so much about the referees not making calls or making incorrect ones. Now, this touch judge has the balls to make the call. He gets the correct call, and people are blowing up about it. It's people need to fucking pull their heads in. It is pissing me off. It blows me away, but I'm not going to get rage baited. For the rest of the Eels, Dylan Brown's second half was really good. His first half was nowhere to be seen. Jack Williams and Junior Paulo I thought were really good. Kelvin Talangi, Kidione Katonga, of course, still have so many errors, still have a lot of penalties in their game, but they're bloody hard to handle when they, want to be. Kelvin Talangi scored a try in this one, 17 runs, 162 metres. Kidione Katonga, he had 15 runs, 111 metres, but he had that try assist where he ran through on a really good line. Kyle Flanagan hit him with everything he could, Kyle Flanagan, and Katonga shrugged him off like it was nothing else, like it was a fly. And then he got the offload over the top and the Eels scored. So there's a lot in these two second rowers. If they can get their Eel discipline out, they are bloody good players. And also Josh Papali'i, I thought he was good. Filling in at hooker when he was on the field, I thought he filled in admirably. But not much to really take from the Eels' performance in this one. They're a rebuilding club. Very, very disappointing first half. That's masked by the second half. They're still missing Moses and whatnot, which is an excuse, but it's not enough of an excuse in my opinion. But because of sort of the context of their club at the moment, I'm hesitant to put too much time and effort into saying, this is a terrible performance and whatnot, because they're a rebuilding club, guys. I'm going to cut them a bit of slack. The next game, the Dolphins and the Rabbitohs. The Dolphins putting another 50-point bomb on, winning this one 50-28. I did not see this one coming. I thought the Rabbitohs were in for a huge upset here. Obviously, I tipped them. I put money on them in my bets thing over on the Instagram. Wasn't to be. The Dolphins, they're a bloody good footy side, even with all of their outs in their forward pack. This is a team that can afford to have every excuse under their sun. Their forward pack is decimated. and they score 50 points in this one. Jeremy Marshall-King, Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow 1, Cody Nikorima, Jake Averillo, Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow 2, Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow 3, Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow 4, Kurt Donahue as the last try scorer. 8 tries scored, and shout out to Jermaine Asako for kicking all 8 goals and slotting a penalty goal to go 9 from 9 from the boot. So, yeah, just what a performance from the Dolphins. They're not a team that can win the premiership this year. I'm going to say that. I don't think that they have the forward pack to do it at the moment with all of their injuries and whatnot. But far out, this team is building a base that next year with, Plath back, with Gilbert back, with Saifiti back, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we finally get Tommy Flegler back. Plus, they'll probably sign some other players. I think I don't know if it's been confirmed, but George Williams will probably be coming over from the Super League to the Dolphins soon for next season. That's another big in. They can be a bloody big premiership threat next season. They can still make the 8 this season, which will be the first time in the club's history. It'll be a huge success for the club, and I'll be very, very happy for them. But yeah, I don't think they can win it, but I don't think it really matters. Games like this show so much about what the club's at, where they're what their identity is, where they're at in their progression, where they're at with their progression of key players. They are incredible. Let's start with Isaiah Katoa. Maybe he was going to do it anyway, but especially now with the injury to Luke Metcalf, I think Isaiah Katoa is going to win the Dally M Player of the Year. He is unbelievable. We said it very early in this season, and I've got the post up on the Instagram to prove it, that he had gone past being one of the best young players in the competition to one of the best players, period. And here it is at this point of the season, and he genuinely is the best player in the comp at the moment, in my opinion, Izzy Katoa. What he is doing is stuff that I only see Nathan Cleary, Andrew Johns, bloody Jonathan Thurston doing. Like, these sort of players, and he's doing it at 21 years old. Some of the balls and whatnot he's doing, the way he digs in the line, some of his vision and his ball playing, his decision making, at his age is better than like anyone I've seen, to be honest. I loved Cleary when he came into the grade as an 18-year-old. To me, back then I said, I was only young myself, but I said Ash Taylor deserved the Rookie of the Year in a stacked year that year, by the way, for rookies. I thought Ashley Taylor deserved it. But Nathan Cleary, if he played more than like 16 games, if he debuted in round 1, I thought Cleary would have won it. Then he had a couple not lean years. A lot of people like to call them lean years. I don't think he was ever bad in the NRL, Nathan Cleary, but he wasn't playing to what we knew he could. Isaiah Katoa, like, his age to be doing this is just unbelievable. He's a freak. 24 runs, by the way, from our halfback. I say ours. I'm not a Dolphins fan, but fuck, I could be with how he's playing. 24 runs, 163 metres, 1 line break assist, 3 try assists, 3 tackle breaks. And then, we can go over here and he's kicked for 408 metres as well. The balls he was throwing, like, I can't remember exactly which one it was. The Nikorima one. The ball he threw to Nikorima, which fair enough was also a really good line from Nikorima, like a late change. I don't even know if maybe the ball wasn't even that good and it was a Nikorima late change and identifying where the ball was going that saved it. But at least from just face value, that ball was unbelievable. And it's not the only one he threw. He's just, I can't stress enough how good Isaiah Katoa has been. And I take a great deal of ego and pride in saying from about round 3 in this comp that he's already one of the best players in the comp. And here he is now doing this. It's just, he's absurd. I think he will win the Dally M. If the Dolphins are able to put performances like this on, he's always going to play his hand in them. I don't think he was the best player in the park in this one. I think you have to say Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow was, but Izzy was a close second. He was unbelievable, and he's just, it's scary to see what he's going to be doing. Like, you don't play your best footy as a half till you're like 30. He's 21. What's he going to be doing for all of these years leading up to it? And what's he going to be doing at 30 years old? It's a scary prospect to think. He's just a freak player, so gifted, and he's got everything, Izzy Katoa. So, there's not a compliment I can't give him, to be honest. unbelievable player. Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow, he's the man that we just said was the best player in the park. And how can you not be? You score 4 tries, 22 runs, 264 metres from Hammer. Like, it's just sort of that simple. You give him a half sniff and he just makes you pay every single time. That I think it was the last one that he scored where, like, the Rabbitohs sort of fumbled it and it ended up in his hands as a half break. There's, like, a little gap in the play. He's so fast. He blitzes through. Latrell has the angle on him. He blitzes past Latrell. Alex Johnston's chasing from behind, who's bloody quick as well. He just gives up. It's like, yeah, Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow. And what I loved about this performance is that with Ponga being ruled out and the whole who's going to be Queensland fullback, you have to step up. And Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow, he's not someone I would necessarily would say steps up in the big moments. Like, he's a fantastic player, and you know he has his amazing games at big levels. Like in Origin, he's never really had a bad performance in my opinion, but he's never, like, for me, never really just stepped up and been, okay, I have this opportunity to show I'm the best and I'm going to do that. What I loved in this game is he did that. He was like, okay, there's that opportunity for that fullback role. People saying it's a shootout between Hammer and Walsh and whatnot. He's like, I'm going to be the best player in the park in a game like this. And he was. And I just love that from Hammer. It's a scary prospect against Queensland that he's going to be at fullback because, as we just said, any half gap, any half sniff, he makes you pay. So he was unbelievable. Jermaine Osaka, we mentioned him from the boot. Perfect from the boot with 9 conversions. So he got, how many points is that? 18 points. Yeah, true. No. Yeah, 18 points and 142 metres out there as well. Just did his usual thing. Ball didn't really go his way, but, you know, he made the best of what he had. Herbie Farnworth, 14 runs, 168 metres, 1 line break assist, 1 try assist, 9 tackle breaks, doing his usual thing. Cody Nikorima, he came off injured in this one. He only played 38, but in that time scored a try and, had the line break and whatnot in there. But just the way he's positioning, the way he plays in their shapes, he is like the perfect foil to Katoa at the moment. That, you know, with all this George Williams stuff about George coming to the club, and I heard that originally they were looking at a player swap for Cody to get him over, put Cody over to the Super League and bring George Williams across here. It kind of blows me away because at the moment, Cody Nikorima is playing some incredible rugby league. He's the perfect foil to Izzy Katoa. And if you get George Williams to the club, that's a great get. But I don't think you can afford to get rid of Cody Nikorima from your club, whether he becomes the 14, whether he stays at 5'8", or he's in reserve grade. He's just tried and tested as your 5'8", and we know he works as a foil to Katoa. So you need to keep him at the club. He's playing some really great rugby league, Cody Nikorima. Molo, Nichols, Fitafuyaki, their entire forward pack was really, really good. As I said, considering how under strength they were, I thought they were incredible. And Kurt Donahue, again, we mentioned last week, you know, his versatility is just becoming a huge, huge thing for him. His importance to a side and how much he's worth and his value is going up each and every week. So playing lock again in this one, played the full 80 minutes, Kurt Donahue, and these are his stats. 12 runs, 174 metres, 1 line break assist, 2 tackle breaks, 31 tackles, 2 missed, and an intercept length of the field try showing his pace. He's a footballer through and through. Obviously, lock will not be his position next season. He'll probably go back to a bench utility, but far out, it's showing how valuable he is. Like, his versatility across the park is just unbelievable. So I thought he was incredible, Kurt Donahue, and shout out to him. Ray Stone, he came up with some huge efforts in defense off the bench. Connolly Lamuela was good. And Albert Tawa ended up starting the game in this one, a man that we identified in the preseason. Really good player, and he was really good. For the Rabbitohs, we'll be a little bit shorter here. I'm a bit interested. They finally got their first choice spine back in this one, and it didn't last the full game. Cody Walker going down with another hamstring injury in the 64th minute, which just sucks. he's getting on in age and he's now had a lot of hamstring injuries this season. I don't know what the future is for Cody. Hopefully he can come back and just play some good footy because he was playing good footy in this one before that. But yeah, that injury is not really an excuse for the Bunnies. They were losing this one before it and they lost it after it. It was just, they were never really in this one. They have some good players. Jack Whiten had a really good game. He came up with some really good moments. Tallis Duncan was incredible. Tallis Duncan's stats as a second rower in a team that conceded 50 points. He had 10 runs for 126 metres. He had 2 line breaks, 7 tackle breaks, 2 tries, and 46 tackles made with 0 missed in a team that conceded 50. Unbelievable stuff from Tallis Duncan. Thought he was, just incredible. So good. And he's just, every week he's just going to another level and turning himself into a fantastic player. Their forward pack, I thought, was the letdown besides him, though. Sean Keppie was, to put it frank, terrible. He only played 21 minutes, and in that time, I think he came up with more key errors, than he did runs of the football. There's such a good footy player in Sean Keppie. He's made team of the weeks for us before. There's so much to like in his game, but far out, he's just like that miss. The Isaiah Katoa one where he broke through the line, and I think he gave it back to, I can't even remember, probably Hamaso Tabuai-Fidow. It would have been Hammer. But Sean Keppie comes across to cover the space from Katoa and then doesn't do anything. He doesn't tackle him. He tries to push him. It's not like he shaped kick or pass or anything like that. He did shape the pass, but it was well and truly past that. He'd done the dummy motion and Keppie didn't tackle. He just tried to push him and he goes straight through the gap and they set up a try. It was terrible. I'm pretty sure he was hooked after that and never came back on the field. And honestly, if I'm the coach of a side, I'm putting you in reserve grade straight after that. That was frankly fucking terrible. It was abysmal. And I don't like hiling a heap of shit on players because, as I said, he's an NRL player. He's accomplished more than I will in my entire life. And he has games where he's a bloody good, NRL level front rower. But yeah, there's games like this that's just too frequent for me to, I just had to mention it. It was just really poor. Their bench was solid, like Tavita Totola and whatnot were really good. But yeah, it's not too much to say. Latrell Mitchell, I liked his involvement, to be fair. He was taking hard runs at the line. He still came up with a line break assist, a try assist and whatnot. But not a huge amount to really comment on for the Rabbitohs. Their attack's still there. It can still hurt you in a number of ways, but they conceded 50 and they had not a whole lot of reason to. So, pretty disappointing from the South Sydney Rabbitohs. They do play this bye week against the Manly Seagulls. Of course, no Latrell and obviously no Cody now with that injury again. But against the Seagulls is a really good test to see where they're at. I think they can get that done. It'll be a really good indicator of their season moving forward. Into the Storm and Sharks, the penultimate game of the round. We've gone overtime, as we always do. Frankly, not a huge amount to talk about from this one. I thought it was a really good game. A lot of people were tipping the Storm at home, Amy Park, good weather on a day game to absolutely trump the Sharks. But recently, there's been enough in what I've been seeing from the Storm that I've been a bit hesitant to do that. Obviously, the Sharks haven't been very good recently. But the Storm last week, they got away with one against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. I thought they were the worst side in that one, and they ended up winning that one. And then they come up against the Sharks side, who I still believe, even in their bad performances, are a better side than the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and usually they're like a bogey team for the Storm. I thought this would be a lot closer than it was, and it was, to be fair. I know Storm won 30-6, and in the end, it's a really good performance in how they did it in the context of their season. It's actually really good, but it was closer than the scoreline really appears. The Storm scored in the 5th minute and the 26th minute, and then they didn't score again till the 64th, and they went 64th, 72nd, 78th to score 3 late tries to blow this game out of the park, which I think is actually a really good thing for the Storm, but it's also not a terrible thing for the Sharkies. It shows that the Sharkies were able to hang in this one for a long, long time with one of the top teams in the comp. While for the Storm, it shows that they were able to keep the Sharkies to a low score, which has been an issue for them defensively for a while now. And then they're actually able to, normally in the back ends of games, they've been falling off. Well, now they put the points on. So I think it's actually a really good performance for the Storm. I didn't necessarily need them to win this one 50-12 or 50-18 or whatnot. I think this is a better performance for them to build off this season. So really good win for the Storm. For the Sharkies, yeah, look, there's positives. There is enough positives. As I said, they were in this contest for a long period of the game. Late tries killed them, and you can't really excuse late tries, sure, but it goes to show that for over 3/4 of this game, they were right in it. They were one try down to the, as I said, equal with the Raiders. My premiership favourites, the Melbourne Storm, in Melbourne on a sunny day. Like, the conditions were all for the Storm to come off, especially off their poor performances. The Storm could have run rampant. The Sharks hung in, but they needed more. They just, the 3 late tries was disappointing, but their attack was even more disappointing. Again, Storm defended well, which it's all good and well for them. Another positive for them. But the Sharks, their attack isn't doing a whole lot at the moment. I've been huge on Nicho Hynes this season. You know, he's copping every fucking complaint under the sun. As soon as the Sharks lose or anything goes bad, it's always Nicho Hynes' fault. And it's doing my head in because he's been not even bad at all this season. I think he's been, if you look at his season, he did blanket stats or blanket performances of, you know, his games, he's been good this season. And again, I don't think he was terrible in this one, but the one thing I will say is, if you are paying someone big money, and it's not Nicho's fault that he's on the big money. I hate this narrative. The Sharks, the club offered him a huge contract. His, you know, agent dealt with all that. He got a big contract. And you can have criticisms of your star player on big money not performing, and that's fair enough. And that's where my criticism is going to lie for this game. He's your big player. He needs to stand up more in these games. As I said, I don't think he was bad, but if you pay him those big bucks, he needs to be doing more. So I wanted to see a bit more out of Nicho Hynes in this one. Let it be known, though, Braden Trindle, I think Trindle has been so hot and cold. He's either really, really good or terrible, Braden Trindle. There's not really a middle ground for him in this one. I guess it was a middle ground, but I thought he was pretty poor. Like, he tackled, like, when there was a key moment in this game where the Sharks are sort of wrangling back momentum. They're right in this grind. They're right in the contest. And Trindle tackles, I think it was Hughes, kicking, and gets pinned for it. And it's like, because it's not just where the tackle is. I'm pretty sure they let the tackle go on, and where the ball's then caught, that's where the penalty's blown, and you get it from where the ball's kicked. So you're kicking from outside, like from in your own half, and you get to start your set wherever that ball lands. And Trindle knows that. He is a fucking halves player. He knows better than anyone you can't tackle the kicker. And he went and did that. And he has he's blowing up in the background. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. It was the clearest penalty I've ever seen. And it's a penalty that he knows because he's in those positions every game, day in, day out. So, it's just stuff like that just, it kills you. It really kills you as a club. It kills your forward pack who work so hard and grind that out, and then you do something stupid like that. And it wasn't, just his fault this game. 100% it wasn't. But stuff like that just, it's killer. It's a huge, huge blow, especially in the context of the game, and they need to be better. Again, Nicho Hynes needs to be better. You're paying big money to step up in big ways, and he didn't necessarily, as I said, he wasn't poor in my opinion, but you need more out of him. I think you need heaps more out of Trindle, but I also think you need more out of the rest of the team. Their forward pack in this one, I know they brought Adam to the club to be their big guy, and he was, because he was the only one to run for over 100 metres in their forward pack. 13 runs, 125. No one else ran for, 100 metres. I thought Toby Rudolph was really good on the field. 22 minutes he played, 8 runs, 73. He gave him a bit of spark, but beyond that, there wasn't much. Even their centres, like Jesse Ramian, normally runs for like 170 metres a game. 10 runs for 60 for Ramian. Talakai did his usual work, 147. Mulatalo, 141. Katoa ran 20 times for 108. So the Storm's defense has to be the biggest thing out of this. They were incredible. And it also came down to a few, moments of individual brilliance, which we'll get to the Storm in a second, but like Eli Katoa, oh my God. So they came up against the Storm at arguably their best. This was the best defensive effort I'd seen from the Storm all season. Their intensity, their line speed, their scramble, everything about them defensively was incredible. But yeah, there's positives and negatives to take away from the Sharks' performance, and we'll just have to see where they go from here. They go up again. Oh, they've actually got the bye this week. Okay, I thought they played in round 18. They do not. It's going to be interesting to see what they do coming out of the bye. For the Storm, as I said, we've already talked about all those positives and why this was great. Their defense was incredible. They put points on at the end. They strangled this game and then put points on, which is something I've wanted to see from them. So there's huge, huge positives to take away from this one. This is actually the exact performance I wanted from the Storm. So people are going to look at it and say, oh, they should have put more on. No, this is exactly what they needed to do, in my opinion. And yeah, across the board in terms of standout players, they've got a lot. I mean, Suafa-Longo I thought was really good. 12 runs, 223 metres and a try. Also done his hamstring in the final minute of the game where he avoids Adam Fanua-Blake ankle tap, and then it just looks like he's shot by a sniper as he goes down there, which is killer. Xavier Coates did his work. Grant Anderson, as he has been all year, 17 runs, 152 metres. Defensively amazing, 18 tackles, 0 missed at centre. Just big stuff across the bloody board. Jerome Hughes was good. He ran the ball for 108 metres from 10 runs. He had 1 line break assist, 2 try assists, 8 tackle breaks and a try. But I'm going to go straight to the biggest and best player in this one, Eliesa Katoa. This season, he has been incredible. Even like against the Rabbitohs last week, I thought Rabbitohs handled him really good. He ran for like 170 metres. In this one, he broke the game open like 4 different ways. All those tries in the back end were his doing. 17 runs, 145 metres, 1 line break, 2 try assists, and a try himself. But again, if you miss this game, you have to go back and watch to see how he did the stuff he did. Contesting bombs that no one else was contesting, throwing offloads that no one else could do, and running lines and just breaking tackles and just doing stuff that no one could do. That's the talent of Katoa, and we know his effort all year. That's been here. That's been evident since he arrived at the club. He's become an effort player, which is something we never thought he would be, but he still has talent out the wazoo. Just a phenomenal player and a phenomenal performance. For me, he's right up there with the back row of the year again. I can't go past how incredible he was in this one. He was, I don't want to say he was the difference, because as I said, this was a team effort from the Storm defensively. That's what won them this game. Their intensity and just everything defensively was incredible. But when it came to the attack, Eli Katoa was it. He was just unbelievable, Eli Katoa. So amazing game from him. Look, there's more standouts to say. Cameron Munster, he did his thing. Ryan Pappenhausen, he was involved enough. Nelson Asif for Solomona had good moments in this one. And Trent Liero even scored a late try with a bit of a Superman dive, which was good. But for me, it was just a really, really good team performance from the Melbourne Storm. And as I said, this is exactly what they needed, and this is what they can build off now. A game like this is why I know and why I still have them as premiership favourites with the Canberra Raiders. So phenomenal game from the Melbourne Storm. Let's move into the final game of the round. Another game. It sucks that I have to do this every week. It seems like it's always the Cowboys and Titans, but I end up being quicker, not because they're the final game of the round, although I will admit that has something to do with it, but because what's there to say that hasn't already been said? The Cowboys win this one 30-24. The Titans, another loss. The Titans, they scored 24 points. The Titans do it without Jaden Campbell. Positives, they still concede 30 points. Negative. So, I don't know. I never gave them much hope in this one. You can always give them hope because the Cowboys have been pretty terrible. But the Titans without Jaden Campbell, who's been one of the best players all season, and the Cowboys switching their side back to the side that won 5 games, lost 1 and drew 1 with Jake Clifford in the halves and Jackson Purdue in the centres. I thought it was going to be a Cowboys win, and it was. There's positives to take away from the Titans, obviously. They competed. Their defense is really poor, and I can't pinpoint everywhere that it's poor or why it's poor, but they competed, and that's good. You can take positives out of that. But, like, what is there to say? I'm sure even Titans fans sort of go into it and say, yep, I don't know what to say. AJ Brimson, good again at fullback, but what does that open up the conversation about? The fullback conundrum. But 22 runs, 168 metres, 5 tackle breaks and a try from AJ. Philip Sami, I thought he was terrific. 27 runs from Sami. Sami, probably Sami. 27 runs, 234 metres, 1 line break, 3 tackle breaks, 1 try. Just outrageous stuff. Yeah, that's not too much else. But Tino Fa'asuamaleaui doing his usual thing, 13 runs, 111 metres, 35 tackles, 0 missed. And Bo Fermor, who I think has just been incredible all season and never deserved to be dropped from Origin, albeit the Kurt Capewell selection was great for the club, for the Queensland side. But yeah, Fermor, 16 runs, 123 metres, 1 line break, 3 tackle breaks, 36 tackles and a try. I thought he was really good. But yeah, I also liked, you know what, I'll give a shout out. Tom Weaver came through the grades very, very highly touted, hasn't kicked on. In fairness, he's in an environment that we've seen with the Titans. They get all these Australian schoolboy halfbacks and do not a whole lot with them. But I thought Weaver was pretty good in this one. I liked the shape he was playing with. I liked the way he dug into the line. I also liked when he would scamper across field, turn players under. And he also relied on a running game. He had 13 runs for 101 metres, had a line break in there. 15 tackles and 5 misses. Still not amazing, but yeah, I thought he was solid out there. I'm just trying to find positives because I'm sick of being negative on the Titans. As I've said a million times, this is a team I want to be great. I did find it really strange that Brian Kelly was dropped and then got called back into the side, and Alofiana Khan-Pereira was dropped, considering Alofiana Khan-Pereira scored 2 tries and was one of their best players last week, and Brian Kelly has been very poor all season. Alofiana Khan-Pereira, sure enough, goes back to Queensland Cup and scores 2 tries again. Like, I don't know, I thought that was weird. I think it is coming to that stage where the Des Hasler experiment is, it's clearly not working. I don't know what they do because Des Hasler's one of the better coaches out there. I don't know what coaches are on the market, but you're just going to need to find something that can play to this team's strengths or blow up the organisation and rebuild it from the pits up. But it's hard because you've got players like Brimson, Campbell, Keeney, who I want all of them to stay at the Titans. For me, those 3 players bleed Titans and they should be there to turn this club around. But you can't do it because they're all 3 fullbacks and that's their best position. They need to keep Tino, but he's got clauses like every year of his contract, and with how the club's going, I wouldn't begrudge him for leaving. Bo Fermor you want to keep. It's just, I don't know what to do. Desi Hasler's not getting what he's been trying to get out of this club. And, yeah, honestly, I can't really talk about it anymore. There's positives in there, but obviously the negatives are still there. The Cowboys, it's a similar boat. They got a win, which is really good for the context of their season. They've been pretty poor, and then they come back, they bring Clifford back into the side, and they win. And shout out Clifford. I thought he was really, really good. 1 line break assist, 1 try assist. That try assist as well, it's just the way he straightened in the line, really good through contact and got the ball away. Yeah, this is their best side. It's been sort of evidenced. They're still missing players, you know. Jason Tamalolo's gone. They lost McLean and Bateman, John Bateman, as sort of laid outs in this one as well. So it wasn't their full strength side, but the way their spine and their backline shaped up, this is what it should be. Robert Derby, I think, had another poor night with his errors. Another 5 handling errors from Derby. I'd probably be pulling the pin on him. He's still a lot of talent in there, and he's having some good games when he bounces back from these bad ones. But Braden Burns has been one of the better players every time he's played this season. So he was their first choice winger heading into the start of the season before injury stopped that. I'd just be putting Braden Burns back there. You know what you get from him. He rarely makes errors. I'd be doing that. yeah, positives. Yeah, they got the one. They got the win. Their attack was really good. The defense still, is leaving a lot to be desired. Tom Dearden isn't having the impact he has been recently. It's sort of a bit like his to me it feels like Tom Dearden's a bit not lost, but he's been up for everything this season between Origin and been the leader at this club all season, making the tackles he does and whatnot. He's starting to have a few quiet games, Tommy Dearden. Obviously, Origin around the corner, so we'll see how he explodes there. I'm sure he will, which is terrifying as a Blues supporter. But yeah, I'd like a little bit more out of Tommy D. Murray Talangi was really good. It's good for him to put a performance like that on the eve of Origin 3. Obviously, didn't get named, but yeah, you can't do much more to do that. 17 runs, 156 metres, one line break, one tackle break, and another try from Murray Talangi. Zach Labert, it's good to see him score a try. I don't think he was, outrageous in this game in the centres, but it was good to see him finally score a try. His first try since his ACL last year. And again, his footwork is just really good to watch. And this centre pairing, Purdue and Zach Labert, I like it. They're dangerous players. They've got a lot in them. So, yeah, I don't know what it is, the Cowboys. We said last week that when they're full strength and they've got Jason Tamalolo back and, when they get Hylam Lukey back next year as well, if they can get one really good front rower, and I don't mean that for Noah Blake or whatnot, if they could, that'd be incredible. But, if they can get a really good front rower to partner Jace for the last 1 or 2 years of his career in the front row. You have Cotter at lock, you have Lukey and Nanai as your second rowers, and then you have Neem, Hess, McKaylee, Edwards, McIntyre, these sort of players, Caden Lars, who I love, Kai O'Donnell. You have a lot of depth in your side. There's a bloody good footy side there. So, it's going to be interesting what the Cowboys do. They got the win. That's all you can ask for. I thought Ruben Cotter was also really good in this one. Ended up playing the game at second row with Harrison Edwards playing at lock to start the game. But 14 runs, 123 metres from Ruben Cotter and 48 tackles. Reece Robson got through his work. Griffin Neem, you guys know I'm a big fan of him. I thought he was good as well. But just there's not much more to really say. Scotty Drinkwater, he was the star of the show, as he always is for this side. He's like 99% of their attacking opportunities. 13 runs, 139 metres, 2 line breaks, 1 try assist, and 2 tries from Scott Drinkwater in this one. Yeah, I don't know where they'd sort of be without him. There's still every now and then there's calls for him to be dropped, and I'm like, what is going on? He is like 100% of your attack. So, he's a bloody good player, Scott Drinkwater. But yeah, a good win from the Cowboys, a win that they need if they want to stay in touch with the 8. But we're going to have to see a lot more out of them in the coming weeks with this side that we know can do that. They've had a period of this season where they have done that. Let's see where they go from here heading into the back end of the season. That'll wrap us up for that one. Let's go through my tips for round 8. Obviously, only the 5 games. Starting with the Bulldogs taking on the Broncos at Accor Stadium. I will be taking the Bulldogs. Even with Carraz going to be 18th man for the Bulldog for the New South Wales Blues. Well, shout out to Carraz, very well deserved. Probably won't make his New South Wales debut, his State of Origin debut, but it's going to be huge for him to be in and around camp and just to know where his efforts have come through to get to that spot. Really good for him. I'll still be taking the Bulldogs because I think that's the only player they'll be missing. They'll be looking to bounce back from their loss against the Panthers. And the Broncos, I still have a few reservations about. They've been good the last couple of weeks, but the Bulldogs are another beast. So I'll be taking the Bulldogs in that one. Raiders and Dragons, the next game in Canberra. Obviously, I've talked extensively about how much I loved the Dragons' performance in round 17. I'm not backing against the Raiders in Canberra, especially with those Dragons injuries as well. We don't know how their team's going to line up. They're going to be short a few, especially with, Holmes going off to Origin as well. And yeah, just going to Canberra, it's going to be a very hard ask. I'd love to see it be a close game. I'd love to see them compete. Hell, if they got the upset, great for them. But yeah, I think Raiders get that one done pretty, hopefully not easily, because I'd like a close game. I want the Dragons to build on it. But yeah, I think Raiders get that done pretty handedly, to be honest. Cowboys and Storm next in Townsville. I'm taking the Cowboys. Storm without Cameron Munster. They're without Harry Grant. Feel like there's more. Is that it? Xavier Coates. And yeah, just going to Townsville, Cowboys off that win. I will be taking the Cowboys to get, I don't know if it'll be an upset, but 12th versus 3rd is enough of an upset. I just think it's the perfect time for the Cowboys to get the Storm. It could be another really good game for the Storm to flex what the Panthers did against the Warriors a couple of weeks ago and show, even without our origin stars, this is our identity. But I'll be taking the Cowboys in that one. Roosters, Tigers, I'm taking the Roosters. Tigers, we've mentioned them in their sort of review of round 17, all the outs that they've got in their key positions. I think Roosters off the bye, they get a really handed victory there. Could be quite a large victory, although I'd love it to be close because I want the Tigers to keep doing well. And then Seagulls, Rabbitohs, I'm not sure. I think I'm going to go the Seagulls simply because Rabbitohs without Latrell and Cody and Jai Gray, who's injured as well, who we know from the start of the season was unbelievable. I don't even know who they play at fullback. Probably Fletcher Myers. Hell, it could be fucking Alex Johnston at fullback. I think it'll be a decently close one because both these sides aren't doing tremendous. I can't believe the Rabbitohs are 16th. They feel heaps better than a team in 16th. But yeah, I'll be taking the Seagulls in that one to round out my tips for round 18. Once again, thank you guys so much for listening if you made it this far. If you're not already following, go and follow the Instagram. A lot of our other content up on there, and it's just a good way to keep in touch with me. Chat footy, chat Supercoach, ask questions, just anything. I'm always on that. So if you ever want to chat literally about anything about life, if you're struggling, swing me a message and let's talk, because I do this thing for you guys. I love interacting and talking to you guys, and I'm interested in everything that you guys have to say. So yeah, if you've made it this far, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys for listening. And of course, we'll be back next time. So, see you then. See you then.